So we're going to go through a weighted glenohumeral internal rotation dynamic eccentric isometric. So how this is going to work is I'm going to adopt the elbow on knee setup for internal rotation of the shoulder joint, and it's going to be a 1 rep isometric or dynamic isometric, I should say, of slowly lowering the eccentric movement of this exercise. So this is going to be a long rep. Now, as I go through the motion, I want to move through as many areas as my joints, that my nearby joints can provide. So with this one here, this particular exercise, the joints I can manipulate quite a bit is going to be my elbow. So I can play a little bit with elbow flexion and extension, so opening and closing, elbow rotation, pronation, supination, and even wrist movement. So I think this is going to be a slow movement down where you're resisting the weight throughout the exercise. All right, so I'm using a dumbbell. I want to use a weight which works well enough to pull me eccentrically into the position, but not too heavy where I don't have control over my movements. So I'll start here. Now in this position, I'm working against gravity, but in this position it's going to be easy. So what I can do to begin with is just drop the knee and move with the shoulder in one piece together and start here. So I haven't actually changed my shoulder position. I've just changed my shoulder in relation to gravity. So from here I can feel the weight now challenging me, and I'm going to move. So I can close the elbow in combination with rotation, for example, like this. As I said, I can open the elbow as well. And I can challenge myself in all areas possible. I move slow because I also assess how it feels. There might be areas I feel very weak and vulnerable, I can't move too much into. I'm starting to get beaten a bit with the eccentric, so I'm going to move that knee back to where it was initially. And now my angle is nice enough to be feeling this weight work against gravity. Continuing the journey, trying to explore all possible movement patterns, all areas I can move into for this exercise. Every area that starts to feel fatigued, like if I get fatigued here, I try to change something in order to keep the exercise going. And then it starts to get really hard at this midway point. I can drop the knee back a little bit to adjust my shoulder position in relation again to gravity, keeping the exercise relatively intense. And I'm working through the full range that I have for shoulder internal rotation. And I keep going to the point where I feel my shoulder can't internally rotate anymore before the shoulder blade comes along for the right. So just to recap, with this exercise, it's a 1 rep slow eccentric. You're aiming to provide as much movement variability to that shoulder. So in order to load the shoulder in many different ways, play with elbow flexion extension, the rotation, and even the wrist.